daughter did come out, and she came flying into the world. We were in a construction site. My father bought a house in East Orange. We didn't have a bathroom. We didn't have working plumbing. What we had was a makeshift toilet from a Home Depot bucket and a toilet seat. And I'm there sitting on this bucket, and water just sprayed ahead of me, and I screamed out, and my mom came running, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. It turned out my daughter's head was there.
This intro calls for something serious, so let's go cursive. Aziza, never mind. Aziza, Kibibi. Wait. Aziza, Kibibi. Seriously though.
You have to accept it. No.
Hey everyone, Aziza Kibibi here, and I want to share with you guys an interview that I gave for Women's History Month to Street Hype newspaper. I'm talking about here with my interviewer, Tashani Brown, about what it was like as an adolescent surviving abuse and what the transitioning and the changes that went on in my family. To watch the entire video, check the captions for the link. She also interviews a psychologist after I get off, so make sure you check out that video.
You were pregnant. Do you want to describe that for us?
Well, I think it was a little different for me because the stress of the abuse, my experience going through puberty, I don't think was like the average girl. You know, when my period first came, for some reason my parents didn't believe I had my period, so I bled for days with no feminine products. And then when I got pregnant, my father didn't believe that I was pregnant. So, and that's where the conflict again is. I think that he was making it up as he went along, because then he changed his doctrine to, initially he told my mother that he was abusing me to help my skin condition, because we also was not allowed to get any medical help. He believed in holistic medicine and Chinese medicine. So any ailments we had, he treated himself with herbs or acupuncture. So when I used to suffer from extreme bouts of what I did not learn until after I had my oldest child. I had asthma. It was never diagnosed. It was never treated. I was just laying in bed, barely breathing. And my father would say that it was my negative energy. At the same time, he would do sexual acts to me as a way to cure or rid my body of the negative energy. So when I found out, or when my mom suspected I was pregnant because I missed 2 periods, my period regulated. I got my period when I was 12. And then by the time I was 14, it regulated. Because I'm sure, you know, young girls, you get it once and then you don't see it again. So once it regulated, and of course I was the first, being the oldest, I was the first child that my mom ever had to deal with even having a menstrual. So I don't think she even really knew how to deal with it. Excuse me. Sorry, my throat's getting really dry. Okay. So the first time I had it, I was kind of alone. Like I told mom, like there's blood, but then at the same time, I think whatever she was going through herself, she didn't really take it seriously. And it was just all like, I felt by myself. And I think that's really the thing. Being in such a big family and feeling by yourself is really a crazy feeling, because it's like there's all these people around you, and then these adults that are supposed to take care of you, and you feel alone. You feel alone I felt alone in the position that I was in. I felt alone in the process of getting my period. I ended up having really, really bad cramps, and I despised getting it every month. So then when my period one day did not come for 1 month, and then it didn't come for the second month, my mom said to my dad, I think Aziza is pregnant. And he just was not accepting of it. So once he decided to accept it, he changed his doctrine to that this was meant to be, this was ordained by God. So it went from he was abusing me to cure my skin condition and rid me of negative energy to, well, I'm pregnant, it's ordained by God. And then his girlfriend brought up the fact that there was a possibility that my daughter would come out deformed because she is a result of the breeding of two close relatives. He was very angry about that. But then when my daughter was born, beautiful and healthy from what we could see, then my father changed his doctrine again and decided that he was ordained by God to repopulate the planet. There was an apocalypse coming, and he had to prepare by having blue blood children in order to repopulate the earth.
Wow, wow. That's so here you are, 15, with a new baby. What was that like seeing your daughter for the first time? You mentioned your father basically delivering your daughter himself. So when your daughter came out, he didn't see all of that happening. Although that the things that his girlfriend said would happen, the child being deformed and all of that, because we seen your beautiful children on Facebook, and she's a beautiful young woman. To me, she's perfect. So when she came out and you saw that everything is okay, he saw that everything was okay. What was the reaction?
My concern wasn't whether she was okay. I mean, I heard that from my dad's girlfriend, who, by the way, served 5 years in prison for molesting me. But I don't think that was my focus. Like, and I think at being an adolescent and being young, and this is how just going through what I was going through manifested, where at the same time I'm developing as a woman. That kind of went over my head. I didn't even really, she said it and that was it, but that was not my concern. That was not my worry. So when my daughter did come out, and she came flying into the world, we were in a construction site. My father bought a house in East Orange, and he had only fixed up one room. So it was a family of, I think, maybe 9 at the time, living in one room while also serving as the construction crew to renovate this house. I felt like I needed to go to the bathroom. I didn't have any labor pains. And while we didn't have a bathroom, we didn't have working plumbing, what we had was a makeshift toilet from a Home Depot bucket and a toilet seat. And I'm there sitting on this bucket, and water just sprayed ahead of me, and I screamed out, and my mom came running, and I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. It turned out my daughter's head was there. They got me into the room where we all slept, laid me on the mattress on the floor, and my daughter literally, it was an expulsion delivery, so my body just shoved her out. And as soon as I looked in her eyes, I fell in love. That's when I truly felt love for the first time. At the same time, there was some fear because I knew that, it was up to me now to protect her. So that was that moment. And then I think all the excitement put everybody to sleep. All my siblings was around. And then I just stayed up with her the entire night and just looked at her and prayed and fell deeper in love with her. At the same time, I was not developed. My breasts hadn't been fully developed. So I got this onrush of breast milk and no nipples to feed my baby. So that was like a challenge in itself.
Aziza, I watch you with your children, and the love that you have, it is so amazing. And the fact that you're able to raise your children on your own, you call them your lotus flowers, by the way, which I like. Tell us how you're able to do that, how you're able to cope and nurture your children into the amazing human being out of such an ordeal.
So I believe that we all have a connection to the universe, right? And I believe that, what we call God, is part of that connection. So in knowing that, or my awareness of that, I know that each of my children are their own individual souls. We're all here having as spiritual beings having a human experience. So I don't, when I look at them, I see them. I don't see this, very primal human traumatic experience that essentially ushered them here. I just see who they are, and I do know they did come from me. And for whatever reason, I was chosen to be their mother. I think that would have happened no matter the circumstances. I think if I was to have had a normal childhood and fell in love and had a husband and got a husband and we made children, it would be Arish Mancho, Aloba, and Wakakunre. So no matter what, their souls were meant to be mothered by me. I was meant to be their mother. And that is the connection that I have with them. At the same time, being a young mother, I think develops this parallel journey where you are learning and growing together. And then especially as me, as someone that has been through what I went through and was homeschooled, when my daughter was going through her middle school age and her high school age, I was living vicariously through her. I enjoyed, like, she would sit in the kitchen and do her homework, and I was learning other things, because even though my father's education, the way he educated me was, I had access to a lot of things. I had access to the technology. He exposed us to things about African-American history that no children was being taught in the school system at that time. So while I did know those things, and I was very good at math, there were a lot of things she was learning that I didn't know, like, about the Oregon Trail, or really American history outside of the disaster that was slavery. But it was just it was an enlightening experience, and it has been through all of my children, through their experiences in school. And I do foster open dialogue. Now, teenagers are teenagers. They will keep what they want with themselves. But my children know that they can come to me about anything without judgment. And at the same time, my own challenges, I'm openly communicative with them about that. And I think that really kind of not eliminating, but toning down this idea that the parent is all knowing and all authority on everything. I think that when children see their parents be vulnerable, I think when children see their parents learning with them, then they could relate to them more. So that's what we focus even with the organization I mentioned earlier. And that's why we started It's Okay to Tell Day, where we are encouraging parents to take March 16th of every year and allow their children to speak to them about anything that's going on in their lives without fear of repercussions, punishment, or being labeled a tattletale. So because that has been the experience with my children as a young mom, raising 4 kids on my own, one of them disabled. She passed away, and It's Okay to Tell Day happens to be her birthday. She would be 20 this year. She was the last child for my father. And my second daughter, she has some disabilities. So, and I think I want to go back a little bit. I might have jumped a little forward, but with the fear that my father's girlfriend had of my children coming out with deformities, the way incest works, when 2 close family members make a child, it doesn't necessarily mean that child is going to come out with 11 fingers and 3 ears, or those kind of mutant type things that the media tries to, show us in films and television shows. What happens is that as humans, we have variances anyway. There are deformities that we have. There are some people that are susceptible to, let's say, some kind of heart disease. What creating a child from 2 close family members is that it may strengthen positive genes, but it also strengthens and solidifies negative genes. And that's where you have deformities come from. So if you have a brother and a sister, they make a child, and in their family, they have some kind of mold, then more than likely that mold is going to be more apparent in the child that they create. In my case, my father carried two genes, one that was spinal muscular atrophy and phenylketonuria. They're both recessive disorders. And phenylketonuria specifically comes from a European line. It is found a lot in Irish and Scottish people, and we do have Irish and Scottish background on my father's side. So when me as a carrier of the gene and him as a carrier of the gene, there was 1 in 4 chances that we would create a child that had the disease. So that's where, that connection comes from. And if there is any other inborn errors, then 2 close family members, it just increases the chances of those inborn errors manifesting themselves in the offspring.